Well, guys, I had a chance to check out the premiere of Daredevil Born Again last night, as of this recording anyway. Spoilers and all, this was an experience, to say the least. For years, Marvel fans across the board had been asking for a continuation of Daredevil after they canceled it with Season 3, and then when we saw him show up in Spider-Man No Way Home as a really good lawyer, all of our hopes were restored. Well, actually, to rewind the clock a little bit, Wilson Fisk showed up in the Hawkeye TV series when he went up against Kate Bishop and then Echo. And then it ended on a cliffhanger for various reasons, which I know was explained in the Echo series. Just a big disclaimer, there's a lot of shows in the Marvel universe that I gotta get caught up on. I only got halfway through Season 2 of Daredevil at the time. It was a long story about why I dropped it, and Season 3, I kind of know what happens in there. I've seen a few clips online, but the first season I remember a whole lot, and just being wowed by how the quality of the final product turned out. Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Defenders, there's a lot of homework I need to do here, so just please bear with me, because with television shows, there's a lot of dedication that I gotta allow myself to have. I mean, for me personally, it's a lot to keep up with. That's why I tend to gravitate more towards the movies than television, unless it's a show that I'm really interested in. So yeah, I know the basic little bits about what happens in Season 3. Bullseye, or Poindexter, is in it, and I guess we're gonna go right into this. He shows up in the pilot episode of this series, Reborn Again. Matt, Karen, and Foggy are out on the town going to a bar, celebrating something for this guy who's about to retire from the NYPD to become a private investigator. Karen and Matt are kind of on the friendship level, probably indicated by his previous connection with She-Hulk in the She-Hulk TV show, which I just remembered he was in there too in the yellow and red outfit. Kind of prefer the red look in here, but that's just me. Anyway, but things start to get tense when Foggy gets a call from his friend who's worried about a possible intruder in the building. Matt, with his heightened sensibilities or radar sense, heads over to see what the situation is. Then he puts on the suit and gets into a big fight with Bullseye. And then Foggy gets shot by Bullseye. I thought for a second that this was going to be a fake out, maybe he got grazed, but no, he ends up dying within the first 20 minutes. Similar to how I felt about the beginning of The Last of Us, and even a certain moment in Last of Us Part 2. As soon as I started to realize what was happening, I went, oh god, no. This whole sequence really tells the audience what they're in for. Just like with the hallway fight in Season 1 and the stairwell fight in Season 2, we get one long take of Bullseye plowing his way through all these people in the building, and Daredevil is barely scraping by to catch up with him. Throwing blades at each other, finally making it to the roof, him screaming at Poindexter, why? And he throws him off the roof onto the street, but somehow he manages to survive the fall. I mean, this is a heightened reality, so I guess you have to give it some leeway there, but still. The show was known to be very grounded in its tone, so I thought it was a little bit of a stretch, but then again, he has radar sense, Daredevil. So, not too surprising, I guess. And hearing that classic theme, although retweaked, was a joy for this guy's ears. If you thought that this was going to be watered down because of it being on Disney+, you are in for a rude surprise, because this does not hold back. The tone and vibe is very different, yes, but it doesn't shy away from some of the brutality, even some of the profanity that's thrown in here. At least one F-bomb that I can recall offhand. I mean, we did hear an F-bomb in Guardians Volume 3, but now that it's under the House of Mouse, as long as it's in certain moments, besides Deadpool and Wolverine, that's pretty big for Bob Iger to allow that stuff to happen. The show creator is Dario Scardipane. I hope I said that correctly. If I didn't, I apologize. He had a hand in the Punisher series, which another one I still have yet to watch. Clearly has an understanding of that side of the MCU. The tone feels very similar to what we had before, and this is actually a continuation of those 3 seasons. I was under the impression that this was going to be some kind of a reboot, but from what's public knowledge, the studio did a massive overhaul and decided to make it a continuation of what the fans remember from the Netflix series. To be honest with you, I think that was the right call. I wouldn't have had a problem with that necessarily if it was going to play into the multiversal side of things, because to think about it, the Netflix show, even though they make some pretty big connections to the Avengers and so on, it feels almost like its own separate universe. It doesn't really feel like it's in the same Earth 616 universe. With this iteration, I could definitely see this being more in line with the Infinity and multiversal sagas. Not only is the death of Foggy Nelson a pretty big punch, but Karen Page takes off for San Francisco, because after the death of Foggy Nelson, it cuts to 1 year later where Poindexter is sentenced to his murder of Foggy Nelson, and Matt and Karen have some exchange outside of the courtroom where there's clearly some baggage and some harsh words exchanged. Matt was very cut off and hurt over what happened with Foggy, and Karen couldn't find a way to connect with him, and she just leaves him the piece of the horn that fell off his mask, and she goes back to San Francisco, and now Matt's on his own. He's working at a new law firm in the city. He's put Daredevil behind, and crime is starting to go up in the city, where almost everybody anyway, wants him back. But the arrival of a familiar face causes Matt to reconsider his decision. Wilson Fisk returns to run for mayor of New York City during a recall election. Seeing him coming back not only in this show, but the Hawkeye series, I forgot just how scary this guy is. I still sort of remember what I said about this portrayal of Wilson Fisk back when I reviewed the first season. Before the MCU, the Kingpin was portrayed to be very proper and businessman-like, but here he's very socially awkward. Even when he's making business deals, he does present somewhat of a formal aura about him. Then when he's trying to relate to someone on a personal level, we see more of that unhinged awkwardness seething right out of him, all because of the personal baggage he experienced as a child, which I am going to be covering very soon on Revisiting Season 1. A city needs to die before it can be reborn. He reunites with his wife Vanessa, and they agree to keep things very tight-lipped so that way nobody can pin anything on him. Basically, he wants to show the people of New York that he's reformed, but clearly he and Matt Murdock are lying to themselves. It's not only Wilson Fisk trying to reform himself, Matt Murdock is doing everything he has at his disposal, albeit begrudgingly, paving a new path for himself by dating this woman named Heather, and Heather, turns out to be a psychologist. Just a personal thing with me. After everything that happened with him and Karen, I want to see Matt Murdock have some kind of happiness, even though it's probably not meant to happen for him. I want to see him have some type of connection to help him heal from all the stuff that he's been through. But then he overhears that Wilson Fisk has won the mayoral campaign, and he starts to worry, is there going to be any trouble between the two? And when they meet up in the diner, Matt promises that he'll come looking for him if he feels that Wilson Fisk is trying to step out of line. And Fisk vows to hunt him down if he ever dons the Daredevil costume again. Obviously, these two are going to come back somehow, but it's all about the journey getting there. I really like seeing how Wilson Fisk realizes that there's a lot of hurdles he has to jump through. The DA's office, the police department have a huge amount of animosity towards him based on his past actions. And from the persistence of his cabinet, he has to prove to those people that he can be trusted. But it turns out that's not the case when he threatens the police commissioner who hands in his resignation, showing a picture of this woman and a child, the boy's mother, he actually had an affair with, and he vows to reveal it to the public if he resigns. Just a little sidebar here. Hearing the mentioning of Philly and cheesesteaks from the Geno's Steakhouse or whatever that's called, I haven't had an actual Philly cheesesteak. I know I'm a Philly sports fan, but on top of that, hearing the mentioning of the town King of Prussia, which is an hour east of my house, hearing that mentioned in the MCU was pretty big. Also, I can't remember if it was this moment or maybe it was the moment where he had that meeting with Ben Urich's niece, interviewing people throughout these two episodes about whether or not Daredevil should show up again. We see a shot of his knuckles that have some fresh bruises on them, another indicator that this guy's lying to himself. Because if you remember at the end of the pilot episode, he talks to Vanessa about this guy that he knows about who I suppose that Vanessa had an affair with while he was away. Again, missing information. If it's explained in the shows, just please let me know and don't kill me for not knowing this. If I had to make an assumption, he probably tracked that guy down and, yeah, finished him off. Seeing Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox return to their respective roles, I never thought I would be able to see that again. Even after seeing them in No Way Home and Hawkeye, I mean, why else did Marvel bring these guys back? Probably due to years and years of persistence from the fans, but they are too good to keep out of the MCU. And I am not, without a doubt, taking this for granted. Wilson Fisk continues to capitalize on his popularity in the city by showing up at certain places like a pothole, getting the construction workers to work on it right away without having to wait for the red tape to be cut, gaining more and more support from the citizens of New York. And Matt Murdock takes on this case that he overhears through his heightened senses, realizing that this guy who's being framed for murder is actually innocent, but there's something else to him that he's picking up on. And it's revealed that he's the White Tiger, a vigilante that's going out handling all this injustice throughout the city. And in a similar fashion that we get where he reads the guy's pulse, just like he did for Karen, he knows he's telling the truth. And of course that private investigator, I can't remember that guy's name, he knows about Matt's abilities, but having to prove it to other people is another story. So Matt takes it upon himself to track the guy who arrested Hector, who's beating up the only witness that could verify Hector's story, and he fights off those two cops who pull their guns on him. And just a little sidebar here about those cops. When that guy pulled his badge out in the subway and told him to put his hands up, red flag went up in my head instantly. That's a dirty cop. But the fact that they are going to kill this guy in cold blood and Matt has to defend himself, I would say that throughout these two episodes, and we don't see a whole ton of it, Matt, I sense, is becoming a lot more unhinged than he was before, even from the clips that I saw of season 3. Throwing the one cop into a refrigerator and throwing that guy onto the ground and hearing some crack. I apologize for being too graphic, but I said out loud, tell me he didn't just kill those two? And then he screams out in agony. Whether or not it's about him harming those two guys the way he did, or that the Daredevil's back, or both, remains to be seen, I guess, in the next episode. Oh, I didn't even mention how Heather gets this weird visit from this guy who wants a session with her. And Fisk and Vanessa are having a session with her too. Yeah, about that creepy guy who wants her to sign that book, something's not right about him. I've heard that he's possibly a serial killer, kind of like the Victor Zsasz of the Marvel Universe. Yeah, he's got the look of one, but we'll find out what happens. Yeah, not much really I can complain about with these two episodes. A really great start and a much welcome return to form for the MCU, even with all the problems that they've been having lately. I'm really curious and excited to see where they take it from here. So what are your guys' thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments, and stay tuned for a series of reviews I got coming up over the next few weeks, with the 2003 Daredevil, Elektra, revisiting Season 1, finishing Season 2, and watching Season 3 for the first time. It's going to be a long few weeks and several months, so strap in. We got a lot of stuff to cover here. Thanks again, guys. See you in the next one.